the second 13th Amendment says the federal Congress has no power to interfere with states making slaves. And this was unanimously passed in the federal Congress 20 days before the Civil War. So it's a false flag, because they all agreed on the federal level that the states could define slaves, and that the federal Constitution and Congress and concept that federalism didn't have the power to tell them they couldn't. That's what the second 13th Amendment says that no one knows about. That's an implied trust in the law. So they created a trust compact between the states. So what you're seeing the bar unions operate in between each other to create commerce without any federal oversight. And that's showing itself in the trafficking of children, where the state attorneys can use 1738 F1 and 2, okay, the 1738 AF, and they can go to another state and just take the child and cross state lines, and they don't have to go to the federal construct. But we have to go to the Supreme Court of the United States if, as a parent, your child is stolen by those same attorneys. Okay, think about that concept. They can just go talk to each other, and they can use state funds and the federal funds that are given to these states to do these acts, and they can interstate commerce, and they can contract between each other with international instruments of law. They're using the child's Social Security number to operate between states with no federal oversight, and saying not only we do not have to comply with the federal or the international law of racketeering of children and piracy, we don't even have to answer to the federal courts. And I have a federal judge saying that right here, quote, federal district and circuit courts of jurisdiction have no deprived cases brought by state court losers complaining of injuries by state court judgments rendered before state court proceedings commence and inviting district court review and rejection. So they're saying if you get all the way to a judgment in any cause of action, related to what makes you a slave to the state, that means a prisoner that is in prison for petty,
a child that's in foster care.
It's a child that's in foster. Anybody who does not enjoin the district court before any proceeding related to you being a slave to the state, you don't have any review except to go to the Supreme Court. That's what this says. So everybody start writing the Supreme Court, because that's what because I asked for when you read my pleading, I was very, very, very particular in legal and in law, the opinion that I want brought forth. And this
Are you going to be publishing your pleading?
Oh yeah. This pleading deserves from what I can tell, just from what he's disclosed. And I'm going to read every one of these cases. I'll go get certified copies from the actual books of publication. I'm not going to go to Heinz Online because they change stuff. You go to the library and you pull these out of the archaic books and you read them, okay? When you get certified copies from the library, because librarians are clerk notaries, people. If you get a stamped copy, every librarian has a stamp. You can go and have anything you copied certified that you copied it there, and that is a legal document. That's considered a fact of evidence by rules of evidence, okay, in their system. So I'm going to go get all these and read these. But he's basically disclosing to you that we have no federalism. We have no federalism, okay? And what has created this lack of federalism is the second 13th Amendment, which created an implied trust between the United States, not the people, the District of Columbia, corporate United States, and the city.
Effectively, this is what you're saying. It's piracy.
Yeah, it's total piracy. But he's exposed. They're in a. Remember, I tell you, they're in a quagmire, and we have to walk the law. Okay, we have to do this. This is us. This is our job. But with all these triangulations that I have going on. Cases over here and this behavior here and cases over here and me going through I know where I'm at because I've walked this walk. I know what they do. I know that it is contrived, having walked behind the scenes and gone to the leper colony for a year and been treated the way that they treat these people, and seeing what attorneys don't do on a regular basis. I'm going to tell you, I didn't see, in the year that I was in prison, on my sabbatical is what I call it, I didn't see very much of due process at all. Okay, I'm telling you, that stuff you're seeing on TV that tells you we know what we're supposed to be doing because we make movies about it. Okay? And sometimes even that's total farce. But they sit and talk about, well, you have to get a warrant to block. This is the prosecuting attorney to a cop. Well, I can't take that evidence. I didn't give you a warrant to seize it. It'll get thrown out. You know what? That conversation never happens, people, except in the movies. Okay, in the movies. In the back, they aren't even allowing people to bring forth evidence, and they're kidnapping them and putting their children in other cars and making them follow the courts. Isn't that right, Amelia? This is piracy, just well dressed. Okay, so I want everyone to really read and compare, because any parent who has been facing this and had that Rucker-Feldman doctrine thrown in their face, I'm exposing to you where to go read it, and I promise you, the Rucker-Feldman doctrine uses specific words. Domestic institutions of state. Okay, define domestic institutions. Because that's what I'm going to ask the Supreme Court.
Child Protective Services.
Okay, I'm going to ask the Supreme Court to define it pursuant to the Rucker-Feldman doctrine, and I'm also going to ask them, where they think domestic institutions of state are exempt from federal oversight. I mean, do you understand that the word, just the word, it's a repugnant doctrine because it exempts the state federal. Well, you think you have a federalist republic and you have cooed states of bar unions who are serving the Pope and trafficking your children in your houses
that have immunity
and returning
oversight.
the land to their Lord. They're doing their attorneying. They are attorneying for the Pope. They're not attorneying for us. So they have a back door where they can walk between states as bar union members. But if we don't go, and I guarantee you, if I were to go file a case as a non-attorney in another state, they would not even take my pleading. So I couldn't do what the people in California did, because they had to use their back. They had to go to the nexus of the CPS, which in Clay's case, we have people on record, in witnesses, with affidavits, on recording saying that their boss is the prosecuting attorney. CPS in this county said their boss is the prosecuting attorney. So you're being required.
That's a conflict of interest.
You think? You think? But you know what happened in this county to make that happen? The judge in the case of the mother, the common pleas judge, he used to be the county prosecutor. And guess what? There used to be this really great director down there, and a child died in the custody of CPS of Highland County. And she brought the two workers in and chewed them out and put them on leave and referred them for prosecution for neglect in the death of this child. You know what happened to that director? Rocky Koss at the time, who was the county prosecutor, had her fired, and they sued her. And then Rocky Koss became a common pleas judge who brings his underling into the probate, and they start trafficking kids. So he took over CPS by suing the director and firing her, and then brought in their own lackeys to run it. And now the CPS workers openly tell you that their boss is the prosecuting attorney. And guess who established that? Rocky Koss, the common pleas judge that unlawfully kept the mother in prison in order to facilitate the trafficking of her child. This is a disgusting case. You give me a day in court and I will make these people look like this international contrived slave traders they have always been for the last 2,000 years. People need to understand your banks are slave trading platforms. That's what they are. They're founded upon the value and the hypothecation of your flesh, and the transactions between the slave traders and their elite. Hey, have some of my slaves. You want to go to war? We make money at war. So if your people fight my people, we can make a whole lot of money because we own all the corporations providing the tanks to the Germans and the gas to the Germans and the IBM databases to the Germans. People need to understand it's like a big game of Risk. And we're the little plastic pieces on the board. And each one of those plastic pieces equals, like 10 million of us. Okay? That's how fractured we are from the people running this world. And our founding fathers, I think, knew it. They lived it. They were the elite. and they separated themselves. So, people badmouth the founding fathers, which is partly my family, so I'm personally offended by that, okay? But these were enlightened people who had to march the law to free us from some very, 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 very old slave traders that have existed since before Rome. And in this case, we will find out who they are. We'll find out one way or the other, because they've allowed their agents, the esquires, to traffic children as interstate commerce, and they are paying themselves, because the United States Corporation Company is a conglomeration of the franchises of every state of. So it's a pyramid scheme of their own design. So they're paying themselves to traffic children and exempting themselves from their paradigm.
Yeah. So I digress, Lotus. This case in Idaho?
Yes.
Idaho?
Yes.
Why was the man not charged, and why were gag orders issued, and how is this even legal?
Apparently the attorney for the child was sanctioned or something as well. I put some feelers out to Lee. I'm very busy today, but I have an appointment here. I have to leave before 3 or before 2:30, so we got a little bit more time. But I know that he will find out the specifics from me. He will actually go get the case file if we need it. But with a gag order, he may actually have to approach the attorney, and that's why I do what I do with the grace that I hopefully present. Not every attorney is bad. There's a lot of really good attorneys who just don't understand what they're being told to do, and they're taught process. They're taught like, if A, then do B, and if B, then do C. Like, they're taught law like that. They're not taught this greater constructs and esoteric nature in the history of the philosophy, and they're not taught that big picture spirituality thing about law. They're taught law is this rudimentary process. That's the difference between law and at law. That's between ens legis and God, okay? Ens legis instrument people do what they're told to do. They are instruments of state that do what they are told by administrative statute. They follow it. My mother is of the kind that did that for 30 plus years and was asked multiple times in her career. If you ask her multiple times to break the federal law, and the only thing she did is say, there's no way in hell I'm doing that. And she knew she couldn't get fired for it at that time because they had a union back then. Now you get fired for not breaking the law. It's been cooed in that respect. So there are people within the system itself that are being made complicit by their own ignorance of what's going on.
Well,
and this attorney.
Not only that, they're very, very compartmentalized.
That's part of the ens legis nature, and that's why they've been allowed to coup us. They're very compartmentalized, and I'm very big picture. So when I brought that pleading, that 15-page pleading, where I took the big picture and then compartmentalized them into what they were to do, he was able to bring forth a very thorough petition. Okay, this a very thorough answer. I think that his answer. I'm very happy with how he answered the petition that I put forth, because he was very particular in law. Okay, I was very particular in legalese and said, "Hey, you're UCC, you're the instrument in UCC over there, and I know you do this and that." I showed him that I know who you are in the trust law, in the banking paradox, which is the state, because your state is just a big corporation affecting a bank, and the trade that is done within that bank. From the state banks.
I'm hearing more and more of these cases where parents are, when they move to relocate to another state, they're losing their children.
Right, and there's a federal act. We discussed this. What is it? The Federal Interstate Trafficking Blah Blah Act. My friend from NOPE brought that forth, National Organization of Parental Equality. I'm going to try to get him.
It's becoming. It's like I'm almost hearing it on like a daily basis. Like, for instance, I posted the Shores case. The Shores, they moved from Nevada to Arizona, and Nevada filed on a closed. I think it was a closed case.
Okay. So listen to this. So that tells you your children are not your property; they're the property of the state. You can leave the state, but you're not going to take your kid. Okay. and then they want to, and then those same attorneys who want to do interstate commerce with your children as their corporate asset slaves want to be able to reach over the border and reach for any child now. People have to understand that whole thing about Trump. Okay, that whole thing